Thank you all for coming back to visit us. This is our third video in our collection. I am Hayley Poland, Assistant Superintendent for Equity and Student Services. Laurie?
I'm Laurie Seidel, Coordinator for Mindfulness Education. Jerel?
I'm Jerel Rhodes. I'm the Guidance Coordinator at Forest Park Academy, Roanoke City Public Schools.
And my name is Decca Knight. I'm the Coordinator of Elementary Counseling and Trauma-Informed Care here for Roanoke City Schools.
Welcome back. Laurie, can you remind us what mindful parenting is?
So, in our videos, we're talking about families, parents, guardians, caretakers, and this added responsibility that we have in our roles. And when we talk about mindful parenting, it's just really about bringing our full presence to our interactions with our family members, with our children, and as best we can, creating supportive conditions for learning and for physical as well as emotional safety for our children and our families. So these conditions that we're creating, and it's really all about offering our presence, right? Not being distracted and somewhere else, but when we're in the act of parenting, that we are parenting during that time, that we're choosing to really be present for our children. And it's also about noticing our judgments a little bit more, just being more aware of the judging mind and how that comes into play and how that causes us to act or say things in certain ways. So judging a little bit less, trying to be stressed out a little bit less. But that doesn't mean shoving it somewhere else. It means taking care of that stress. That's what we're talking about, that self-care component, and taking care of ourselves as parents. And then that when a conflict or a stressful situation occurs, that we know how to stop, right? We talked about that in our last video. We know how to stop and take a purposeful pause. So then we can ask ourselves the question, which is, am I just being reactive here? What's going on for me? Or am I going to choose to respond with a sense of purpose and clarity? And that's what that stopping helps us to do. So that's really mindful parenting in action. And you're teaching your child as you do that, you're teaching your child, you're role modeling how to take care of stressful situations and then choosing to react rather than just being reactive.
And Laurie, mindful parenting also includes listening carefully to your child's point of view, even when you disagree with it. And that can be hard for a lot of us as parents. So we may be listening to something that they're saying and we may be thinking, this is totally ridiculous what they're saying, but listening regardless, right? Even if you don't agree with it. And then just giving them the space to communicate before you react. So again, using, that purposeful pause to say, okay, maybe I don't agree with this, but I'm not going to, jump on my child or get really upset about that. And suspend that judgment for a time so that you can truly hear what your child is trying to tell you. And sometimes we just need to read between the lines. So if we go back to that first video that we did and we talked about, the underlying anxiety and fear may be manifesting itself as other things, anger, irritability, read between the lines of what your child is saying and really kind of dig down to what may be actually going on with them. Children sometimes don't express themselves as well as we do with their words. So you have to be really aware of that. And also understand that your child's biggest emotions may come out towards you because you're their safe place. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to a parent and they say, at school, my kid is really well regulated, they're really easygoing, and then they get home and they just unload everything on me and it's really overwhelming. And that can feel really horrible, but just know that's because you're their safe place. You are the place where they feel comfortable enough to express who they really are and how they're really feeling. So when they do that, just really empathize with them and try to work through the problem that they're having. And so, this may sound like, I can see that you're really angry or really overwhelmed, and maybe you're even angry with me right now. things in general seem really overwhelming right now in school, in the world. I'm overwhelmed too. What can we do together to solve this problem? So working together as a team, rather than shutting down that anxiety and fear and irritability, we want them to be able to come to us and continue to come to us as that safe place.
These are some great points. What else can we do to support our students and our parents?
Oh, one thing I think is very important is to check in on how your child is coping with the situation that has taken place. We've seen a lot recently. We've seen a lot during the whole year last year. So checking in is very important. I know with my kids, when I get home, even though I'm tired, worn out, I make it a point to make it around the house to see how everyone is doing, how everyone did for the day, their classwork, and other than that, social media, whatever, what's going on, just finding out what's happening in their world. Also, along the way, it's easy when you're in the house constantly with your child, it's easy to notice the things that they're doing that you do not like. It's important to reward the things that they're doing. I was reading something the other day and it was saying that try to use a 3-to-1 ratio. If you have one thing that you see that they're doing, that you know that they do, find 3 things that you know that they are doing is positive to reinforce those things. And if you keep that kind of ratio going, it kind of keeps down the frustration in the house, period, really for the kids also. And then trying to build and making sure you create a community of support. There are a lot of ways to do this. There are parenting groups, there are faith groups, people's, maybe their churches or whatever. Maybe you design a group text just with family members, just so that everyone keeps a constant communication, because in many ways we're isolated, but if we can find a way to make that contact, humans, we were created for relationship. So if we just can keep relationship going, it'll be a great thing. And just have that list of people that, when things get overwhelming for you, that someone you can call and just to vent to. And then, and you will not be judged for it, and keep moving. And also through it, it's important that we look at what are the things that causes us to rise up with our kids. And you learn to stop those things before they happen. You stop the fights before they happen. If you know that there's an issue with one kid wanting to watch one TV show and the other one wanting to watch it at night, maybe you may want to take that controller with you and say, at 10 o'clock, the controller goes with me to my room. And then, that keeps the fights down. So these are just a few things that you can look at and think about as we continue to live and move forward.
Mm.
And Jerel, I think kind of going right along with that is kind of changing your expectations as a parent. I have to do this quite often because sometimes our expectations as parents kind of cause us to get frustrated with our kids. So ask yourself, are you expecting too much of them? Are you expecting them to hold it all together during this difficult time? Are you expecting them to sit and listen and do work for a long period of time without a break?
Right.
Are you expecting them to entertain themselves with no parent interaction for a long time? A lot of us are having to do that if we're working from home. And I think, sometimes our expectations maybe are unrealistic. And I know that I have to check in with myself quite often with that and say, like, what is developmentally appropriate for my child and their age? What can they do at this age, and what is reasonable to expect them to do? Then also think about what triggers you. If we're all honest with ourselves as parents, we all have triggers. We have things that our kids do that get on our last nerve. So things that trigger an explosion inside of us and maybe outside of us sometimes too. We call this where the shark music turns on. So you have this narrative in your head that you're getting really, really aggravated with people in your family. So, a trigger for me is maybe feeling like, nobody is listening to me. You might have a trigger when you're hungry, you haven't eaten, you've been overwhelmed, being asked too many questions. I remember when my son was younger, it was like the questions every like 30 seconds, right? So that sometimes can be really overwhelming. Being interrupted from work or a phone call that's really important. Walking into a messy house, and the list can go on and on and on. So identify what your triggers are, so that you know that your triggers sometimes are what's causing you to get upset with your kid, not necessarily something your kid has done, right? And you really have to be aware of that. And, you can talk to your family about that. I love, Jerel has mentioned like family meetings, right? I love being able to talk to our family and say like, what are your triggers? What upsets you? And, so that the kids even have the space to be able to say like, Mom, are you being triggered right now? And it's an interesting conversation to have. So I think it's a very healthy thing, a very healthy dynamic to have.
Yes, family meetings, and and maybe even starting that family meeting to, I used to say, let's take 5, right? And you could choose. You could take 5 minutes to go be on your own and do some of your own calming, or you could just sit with me and with the family, and we could take 5 deep breaths together and then have that conversation that we need to have. But just starting with that, taking that moment for us to all take 5 together is a really nice thing to do. And then as a parent or guardian or caretaker, knowing that, yeah, like Decca, you're talking about these triggers, these, especially during transition times during the day, and if I can create a little bit of space in my day to take a few purposeful pauses and just stop and just remember to do that, I can help myself stay regulated, and I can help bring my own stress hormones back down to baseline. And that is a really helpful practice. I can even set little sticky notes for myself, for example, take that pause, or noticing those big transitions in my day before I walk into that house. Maybe taking that purposeful pause and just stopping and checking in on myself. And then I can really walk through the door with that clarity, okay, now I'm home. Now I'm in this new place. So just making sure that, I weave in those moments to take care of myself as I enter my family and into the home.
Also, when we talk about relieving ourselves and getting rid of anger, it's okay to leave the space sometimes. I was listening to what you all were saying. I was listening to what Laura was saying about the breathing part. And a lot of times we are together, we're in the same space. And if you find yourself, as I said earlier, rising up inside, it's okay to walk away. And you may find times where you can't get away. And if that is the case, and you can't release in that moment, it's okay to say, hey, let's all take a break. Maybe it's some screen time you want the kids to have. And I know we don't want our kids to have too much screen time. But in their screen time, and I know sometimes you tell a kid, hey, put your phone down for a while. That may cause an issue in itself. If so, if it does cause an issue, back up, breathe within yourself, find the space within yourself, knowing that I have what I need in this moment to bring myself down. And it's also to say, hey, listen, if you guys put down the phone for a second, let's take a walk. If you have, which we have a treadmill in our house, let's get on the treadmill. Make a contest out of things. Set a regimen throughout the day to say, hey, if you haven't gotten in your 30 minutes, let's go get your 30 minutes in. That'll give you a 30 minutes to yourself to be able to decompress. So just realizing that there are many different things around us that we can use, do. Just bring the exercise in. I stand on that. I believe in that because that is a great reliever of many things. Definitely anger, because that's a part of stress.
It's been such a helpful discussion. Please just know that you can ask for help. If you have a spouse, a partner, another family member, someone in the community, in the home with you, ask them to help you. Let them know you're about to blow. You might ask for help from others. It's good to develop a plan that really is working for you and for your family and for your parenting style. Remember that you're a part of our school community. Please reach out, use your school counselors, use your school social workers, your teachers, your administrators, and reach out to us. We're here to support our families and our community as we continue to navigate through this stressful time regarding social justice, the ongoing COVID pandemic, and economic stress and loss. We have a list of resources on our division website on rcps.info. Thank you for joining us for these discussions on parenting during these challenging times.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.